Thanks for tuning in. This is Dr. B. Welcome back to True Psych Ward. Before we begin today, I just want to give you the definition of objectivity according to Merriam-Webster. So objectivity is the quality or character of being objective. In other words, it's a lack of favoritism towards one side or another. It's a freedom of bias. So regardless of the feelings that I have to be able to separate those feelings when I'm analyzing data in order to keep an objective mind. It's imperative, especially when it comes to true crime, where we are prying into other people's lives and making judgments about that. So of course, discussion of true crime can at times be highly emotionally charged, as we've seen with the case of Christopher Watts. But again, keep in mind that we have to be able to analyze all the data that we have. We can't pretend that something isn't there, and we shouldn't pretend that something isn't there because it doesn't fit our judgment that's based on emotions. With that in mind, let's begin. First and foremost, let's begin with this court order that was filed November 15th, 2018, before Chris's sentencing. The order states, on November 14th, 2018, private counsel on behalf of Cindy and Ronnie Watts requested the filing of an entry of appearance in the above referenced matter. Cindy and Ronnie Watts are the paternal grandparents of Bella Watts and Celeste Watts. The paternal grandparents are victims pursuant to Colorado Statute 24-4.1-302. While not parties to the case, the paternal grandparents are afforded all rights encompassed under that statute as crime victims of the child victims. These rights include making a written and/or oral victim impact statement. At the sentencing hearing scheduled for November 19th, this court will afford the paternal grandparents or their designee an opportunity to deliver a victim impact statement. The court does not authorize the acceptance of the entry of appearance, dated November 15th, 2018, by Judge Kopkow. So as you can see, under Colorado law, the Watts family is just as entitled to victims' rights as the Ruseks are. From a legal standpoint, there is no competition between who's a victim and who isn't. Under the law, they are considered victims to the same degree, so keep that in mind. Now I'm going to jump back to the investigation, and I would like to read the letter that Shannan's mother wrote to Dave Baumhover that was included in Discovery. The letter reads, Attention Dave Baumhover. In 2009, Shannan built her house in Charlotte, North Carolina, battling her lupus. Her friend told her about her cousin Chris, saying that he's a very nice guy, quiet, etc. So Shannan got a request from him on Facebook. Months later, she called me saying, Mom, I met a nice guy. He's a mechanic. I said, as long as you're happy and he's good to you. A few months after that, Shannan and Chris had a family gathering, and Frank, I, and his parents had a cookout. They were floored when they saw her house. Shannan was a hard worker and wanted this to eventually sell and make a profit, to keep doing so, eventually be mortgage-free. Comes from a family of contractors. So Shannan was eager to please his parents. waiting on them hand and foot. When Shannan left the back porch and it was just me and Chris's mom, she leaned over to me and said, "Shannan was married before?" I said, "Yes, just like your daughter was." Then, a little while later, again when we were alone, she said, "I just don't see it." I said, "What?" She said, "I don't feel or see that your daughter loves my son." I knew she was going to be a thorn in the marriage, because my mother-in-law was the same way. So every time we had a cookout, his mother and sister were very quiet and distant. We weren't accepted. They made that known. So forward to the engagement party. Shannan and I shopped for food, wine, etc. Spent a lot. Jamie, Chris's sister, wanted all the invitations so she could help. So Shannan told me, "Mom, Jamie wants to help. Send off the invitations. What do you think? She's accepting me. I'm gonna let her do it." So this mom and sister prepped food and cross-contaminated everything. So Shannan couldn't eat any of it. Gluten-free? Nothing. Everything was made with gluten. So thank God I made lots of food I brought. At least my daughter could eat. So as the night went on, Shannan and I went in the bathroom, and Shannan told me, "Mom, I had like 80 invites and only immediate family came." So Shannan called people the next day to learn that they never received an invite. Shannan was devastated. Shannan and Chris were upset, so they knew not to ask again. Then came the wedding. No one from his whole family came. Just his grandmother and uncle. No mom, dad, sister, aunts, and cousins. No one came. Chris spoiled Shannan, and vice versa. They were so in love. They were a great team. They moved to Colorado and lived with Shannan's friend for 1 year while they were building their house. Everything was great. Shannan saw something on Chris's private parts that didn't look normal. They went to the doctors. Cancer. So it was removed. She saved his life. Then Shannan got pregnant with Bella Marie. Everyone was so excited and happy. Shannan and Chris were wonderful parents. Chris and Shannan were working at the Ford dealership in Longmont. Shannan was selling cars. Chris was the head mechanic. A great team. Shannan was top sales. Then Bella came, so Shannan stopped working because of a high-risk pregnancy. She was a trooper through the whole thing. Both families seemed happy. Chris's sister never flew to Colorado at any time they were out there. Cindy and Ronnie came 2 times a year. Shannan worked at Children's Hospital at nights and also sold 31 bags, travel bags on the side. Everything was good. Shannan got pregnant with Celeste, and pregnancy was really rough on Shannan with her lupus. Very high-risk pregnancy again, but only this one was worse for Shannan. Water, weight gain, severe back pain, shortness of breath, pains in her chest, fatigue, exhaustion. My husband and I sold everything but our house and moved out to live with them, to help our daughter in every way we could. Frank and I had to work to pay our bills too. We were there for 15 months. Chris's mom came out to watch the girls for a few days, while Shannan and Chris went on a business trip with Lavelle, her company, 4 nights and 5 days. During that time, we weren't allowed to see our grandchildren or even eat dinner with them as soon as we got home. She brought them upstairs and stayed upstairs. She wouldn't let us hold them or anything. I found that very odd. One day I asked her why. She said, "What the hell am I here for then?" She screamed in my face in front of my granddaughters and said that I was very controlling. I was just like, wow. I texted Shannan over and over again, and she said, "Relax, Mom. I'll take care of it when we get home." It was ridiculous. I never spoke to Chris's mom again. I had enough. After 15 months, I moved back home. It was hard to leave, but I felt it was for the best. I've been home now. 17 months later, my whole family is dead. My beautiful daughter and beautiful grandchildren, all dead. Everything seemed fine. Our daughter never spoke about anything bad. She did speak to us about bankruptcy, a lot of debt, with all the medical bills. Bella and Celeste were back and forth to doctors. Misdiagnosed for 2 years, I told Shannan that they had asthma and that she needed to fire that doctor. One day she went in and the physician's assistant was there and she diagnosed them with asthma. Finally, the girls were doing great. Other than earplugs put in and girls being very allergic to tree nuts, which would have caused them death. Celeste was born with her esophagus too small. They went in 3 times to enlarge it. Steroids like crazy to help her breathe for 1.5 years or longer. All until they were diagnosed with asthma. Then Shannan with her neck surgery, which out of pocket, $25,000 they owed. That's why there was so much debt. I noticed that when we would FaceTime every night for 4 years straight, looking back starting late May 2018, when we FaceTime, Chris was putting the phone all over the room, ceiling, floor, etc. I said, "Chris, are you alright?" Then he would FaceTime normally. Before Shannan came to North Carolina, Celeste had a rash in her private area, and she went to get a face cloth and some cream. Chris had the phone. I said, "Chris, let me see how bad it is, being that I'm an aide." So I still couldn't see, so I said, "Wait, let me move my screen because I couldn't see." He put it right on her privates. Oh, I was mad. Shannan wanted to come for 6 weeks this summer, so she can introduce the girls to Chris's sister Jamie, who never met Celeste or Uncle Frankie, our son. Before the year started, back to school, dance, classes, etc., it was the best time now. We were thrilled. Shannan stayed the week here, then weekends with Chris's parents. The first weekend was great with Chris's dad and family. However, the following weekend was a different story. Saturday was rough for Shannan. She was protecting her children from peanuts in every form. Ice cream, a bowl full of nuts and open razor blades just laying around the house. Shannan called her father, "Come pick me up now, please." Shannan said Cindy was trying to give the kids ice cream with peanut chips in it. Shannan asked Cindy what kind of ice cream is that. Cindy said, "Oh, relax, it's just ice cream." Shannan said, "Please, let me read the ingredients." Cindy told my daughter that she was scary. So the girls walked outside to play with Jamie, Aunt Chris's sister. So after Shannan got done explaining to Cindy how dangerous peanut allergy is to girls, Cindy ignored Shannan. Shannan went outside, Jamie walked in. So the girls walked back in. And as Shannan walked in the kitchen, noticed a large bowl of peanuts now sitting on the table that wasn't there 2 minutes before. So Shannan called me and explained everything. She said, "Mom, I'm being double teamed." And I said, "What?" She told me everything. But when she told me about the razor blades, I said, "What?" She changed the subject real quick because my daughter knows I would have been there and caused a big scene. I love my family. Protection. I said Dad is on his way. She got home here and was beside herself. I was furious along with her that someone that you trust would try to get a child sick or die. Feeding them peanuts, razor blades. Shannan told 4 people this. Me, Frank, Sandra Gordoa, and Nikki. She called Chris that night and she was upset. Chris said he will handle it. So Shannan didn't ever go back again to see them. None of Chris's family came to Cece's birthday party. And Cindy sent Cece's package out to Colorado, which is still there in the box at their house. So Shannan and girls and us had a wonderful time the rest of their trip. When Chris came here for his week here and Shannan's 6th week here, Shannan picked him up at the airport with the girls. They were so excited to see their dad that they set off the alarm for running up to him. Chris spent the day with his parents, and Shannan dropped him off at the nursing home to see his grandma. Shannan and the girls came back here. Chris was acting really weird to Shannan. He didn't have time to speak to her, and then he was going to stay because we had a storm with no streetlights not working. Chris's dad brought him back here to our home. Shannan and Chris spoke on our back porch for a few hours about how he has been and the peanut stuff at his mom's house. Chris was distant to Shannan. Okay with girls, okay with us. Shannan was vomiting all night, and Chris didn't get up to see how she was. This was his wife. They left for Myrtle Beach, and Frank went with them for a couple of days. Being that it was our granddaughter's first time at the beach, Frank left them. I came a day and a half. The girls and I had a blast. Chris was very quiet, doing his own thing and ignoring Shannan. I said to my daughter, "Is everything okay?" She said, "Chris is Chris." So we were at the beach, and we went to dinner. And Chris drove Shannan and the girls. No room, so I drove behind them. I was doing 83 miles an hour to catch up with them, and texting Shannan, "Why is he driving like that? Tell him to slow down." I'm not in a race to go to dinner. At dinner, Chris left the table quite a few times, very silent. He was ignoring his kids and wife. Cece was being funny, and he walked away again. I left the next day. They came 2 days later. I asked Shannan to stay here with the girls. She said Chris has good insurance for the girls. They went back home to Colorado. I'm devastated. P.S. The only reason Chris got fit was because diabetes runs high in his family, and Shannan wanted him to live forever. Signed, Sandy Ruzek. I do have to admit that when I initially read that letter, I did lose sight of objectivity for a little bit, because you can see and hear the heartbreak throughout her letter. But going back to fact-finding and the investigation, I wanted to see what the purpose of this letter is. So I just wanted to get an idea of why this letter is in Discovery in the first place. So I'm reading Detective Baumhover's supplemental report, and it is written on October 7th, 2018. This is about a month before Chris's sentencing. Baumhover says, "The following information was documented at the time it was gathered. The date of this report is not indicative of when the investigations occurred. On October 2nd, I received from, via fax, Sandra, Sandy, and Frank Ruzek typed statements generated by both Frank and Sandy. The first page was a typed statement from Frank, which described his perception of how Watts was acting differently during June 21st through June 26th. Sandy's typed statement followed and is a 10-page letter addressed to me. It describes how Shannan and Chris Watts met in 2009 and a broad overview of their relationship over a 9-year, approximately, period. The statement also describes some dynamics between Shannan's and Watts' families. I scanned both Frank's and Sandy's written statements into the digital case file and retained the original copies for the physical case file. I also requested a written statement from Sandy regarding the phone conversations she had with Watts on August 13th. That statement is pending. Nothing further. In the interest of objectivity, I want to read Cindy Watts' statement that's in Discovery. Oh wait, there isn't one. The omission of Cindy Watts' statement left a void, so to speak, for us to fill in the blanks. YouTube and other social media lit up with different analyses of Chris Watts' mother. She's a narcissist, they say. What a horrible human being. How can someone like this give birth to such a monster? She hates Shannan. She hated Shannan. She's bashing Shannan. All kinds of accusations. Because Cindy's silence and advocacy for her son made her guilty by association. But what did she really do? Now, I have to preface this by saying that I've been guilty myself of holding some beliefs that were not true. My objectivity had been warped, so to say, by a lot of the information that we were still all kind of processing. But I'm here to say now that, again, under the law, Cindy and Ronnie Watts, as well as Chris's sister, are all victims of this case. So how can we empathize with one victim and not the other? You know, we took Sandy's letter as being the truth. I'm still not sure what the purpose of that letter is, other than to bash, yes, I said bash, the Watts family. And I couldn't help but ask myself, why is her relationship with her in-laws so important that she would write a 10-page letter talking about what a horrible person Cindy was and what a horrible person Chris's sister was? What does that have to do with what happened? November 13th, a letter popped up on the docket. It's written on behalf of Cindy Watts, the mother of Christopher Watts, and it's directly addressed to the judge. Cindy says, since the time of Chris's arrest, his entire family has been denied contact with him. They attempted to contact him by phone, by email, and in person, and were denied by the public defender's office each time. The night before the hearing, they were allowed to visit for 30 minutes each, father, mother, and sister, which is the first contact they've had since arrest. During the meeting, his mother attempted to ask him if this was what he really wanted, a plea deal, and was told, do not ask him that, or we will shut this shit down now, by the attorney present. They have felt threatened and bullied when all they want to do is see their son and make sure this is his plea, since that it is not what his original confession was. The family feels that Chris has been coerced into making this confession. He has been isolated the entire 3 months and had contact with no one except the attorneys and his jailers. The family feels he has been told by the public defender that he has no other options than to take this plea and has therefore accepted his fate. However, they don't actually know the facts, since they are not allowed to speak to Chris. Since the November 6th hearing, the family has called the public defender's office numerous times, and they have been rerouted each time to a social worker. It is in the opinion of Mr. Watts' family that he has been coerced, has been denied his constitutional rights, and more, all in an attempt to quickly close this case. They want to have a new attorney speak to Chris on their behalf to determine if this is a true confession or one that is based on inhumane treatment at the hand of the Public Defender's Office of Weld County. If they had not been denied access to Chris, then they would not be forced to contact you for equal justice for their son. Today, Miss Watts has left 2 voicemails with your office, which is closed for the holiday. She would like to speak with you about this matter and to find out why their family is being denied access to Chris and to make sure he's receiving fair treatment under our Constitution. Her number is, she will accept your call at any time and is aware I have reached out to you. Thank you for your time. So what's the truth? And how many truths are there? There are so many holes in this story that it's impossible to make it into a coherent narrative. And that's for us, the public, and allegedly law enforcement as well. But I'm not going to get into the law enforcement aspect of it just yet because, like I said, that's going to be the next video. Right now, I want to focus on the truth. I want to focus on the full story. You see, in the discovery, we have Sandy's letter and we have Frank's letter, but we don't have a statement from the Watts family. So we're only given one side of the story. We're only given parts of the story. We're not hearing both sides. I am interested in the truth. Nothing less, nothing more. So I've reached out to the Watts family and I've asked if they would be willing to speak with me. With the permission of Cindy Watts, I will disclose part of what she has told me with regards to this case. I came to find out that despite being legally recognized as victims of a violent and heinous crime, Cindy, Ronnie, Jamie have received any sort of support from Weld County, from the district attorney who would help this family through some of the difficult times. So I thought to myself, that's not fair. Regardless of how people feel about this family, under the law, they are recognized as a family who has been victimized. And then I thought, but why don't we see them the same way as we see the Ruseks? Why not? And I truly believe that it is because of the way this case was handled. You know, Cindy is a mother, regardless of how she might feel about her son, regardless of how she might feel about her daughter-in-law. Chris is her son. And what surprised me the most, of all people involved in this case, Cindy was being objective. And maybe not intentionally so, but in her letter, she is stating her facts, just as Sandy stated her facts in Baumhover's letter. Cindy's letter is a little bit different in that it doesn't necessarily focus on the character of any one particular person. It doesn't focus on the character or the dynamics between the two families. In her letter, she believes her son is entitled to due process under the law. He has constitutional rights, regardless of how we feel about him or anybody in this case. So when Cindy dared to question how this case was handled. She was publicly shamed, humiliated, called names, labeled with mental health illnesses by people not qualified to do so. And I want to be clear that this is not a defense of Cindy Watts. This is the objective truth as it happened. I also reached out to the Rusek family towards the very beginning of the case, but I never heard back from them directly anyways. I did hear back from them indirectly in the form of comments on social media platforms. Here's an example. Yeah, I'm sure I don't need to show anymore. If you're on social media at all, you have seen plenty of acting out. So I'm not mad. Actually, it's okay. I don't mind. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to stop searching for the truth. Because what we have been given is not the truth. And truth for me means to look at everything, to look at the whole entire picture. Ask the questions that were not asked during the 2-day investigation, during the 48-hour train wreck of an investigation. That's what I want to know. People do not exist in a vacuum. We are part of a bigger picture. We're part of a mosaic of human beings, whatever. We are understood in the context of our relationship with others. What that means is that Sandy's letter, sure, it can give us an understanding of the dynamics between the two families, but it's by no means to be taken as fact and the truth. We can be one way around some people and another way around others. It's called human nature. But I think relationships are important in understanding behaviors in a true crime case. So when I look at why things happened the way they happened, I want to know all sides. I want to know where Empeñada was on the night of Sunday the 12th into the morning of Monday the 13th. I want to see where she pinged. I want to know about Chris in his past relationships. Some of the questions that are left open simply cannot be brushed off. So what's the point? Well, the point is that justice has not been served in this case on multiple levels. Not only do we have so many unanswered questions, we can see through the way that the families are being treated that this case is far from over. So that makes me wonder, why? Why, in the words of a possessive mattress? There are a lot of strong personalities in both families. Does that mean that we know them? No. We don't know any of these people. All we have is a bunch of biased and hateful opinions. We have camps that are fighting one another, arguing for the truth, defending victims. But only the victims that they align with. Is that fair? I think it's telling. I think a lot of the dynamics that are played out between those two families are being played out within the true crime community. So again, back to my question. Why? What are we missing? You tell me.